Hola amigos, los saluda Tatiana Yepes y es un placer para mí estar aquí con ustedes en una edición más de nuestro programa Nosotros, We the People. Este mes vamos a recordar acontecimientos como el de enero del 2004, cuando la comunidad de Portland fue sorprendida por las acciones de la patrulla fronteriza. Los oficiales entraron ilegalmente a lugares públicos, como el mercado africano, la estación de los buses e inclusive el Preble Street Resource Center en busca de inmigrantes. Como respuesta a este abuso, la comunidad entera de Portland se movilizó en protesta por esta violación de nuestros derechos. 2 años después, trataremos de evaluar cuál es la situación actual. Nosotros, We the People, se reafirma con su campaña Nobody's Illegal e invita a las organizaciones y pueblo en general a unirse a ella. Nadie es ilegal.
Lo que estamos haciendo es una reunión para tocar los puntos que se han venido ventilando debido a la situación que se dio en el fin de semana. Como ya tú sabes, migración en conjunto con la Border Patrol estuvieron haciendo redadas para detener inmigrantes documentados e indocumentados, tanto en la parada de guaguas como en las bodegas y las tiendas de inmigrantes, tanto asiáticas, africanas como latinas. Entonces eso es lo que estamos tratando de reunir y tener ideas para una reunión que vamos a sostener con el gobernador el martes que viene.
Last Saturday, there were some folks standing right outside our shop who were hanging out, and some Border Patrol agents came and basically harassed them, asked them for ID. These were 4 Latin men, so they were chosen by what they looked like. Later, the same officers apparently came into the day shelter, which had probably 50 or 60 or 80 people hanging out, playing cards or drinking coffee or getting services, doing laundry perhaps, and chose people to ask for ID inside. They were very aggressive in their approach and very demanding, and the staff who were there kind of had no idea who these people were or what they were doing until after the fact. So it was very scary. It felt very much like a violation of people's rights.
And this is legal? They
Our understanding, well, our understanding again is that it is not legal for them to come into a private setting. We are a private nonprofit agency. We are not a public entity. We do on occasion, we are a low barrier place. We allow everyone to come in, but we do limit things that can be done there. We don't allow soliciting. We don't allow certain kinds of politicking, and when the police come from Portland, they're very clear that they let us know what's going on, they check in with us. We have had a good relationship with them. This, as far as I understand it, is not legal if there's not a specific warrant that they're looking for someone specifically. So with no warrants and not looking for anyone in particular, I believe this is over the line.
Pero sí se han maltratado de muy mala manera, y una de las cosas es que inclusive uno va a visitarlo y ellos no quieren abrir la puerta si ellos no saben exactamente quién es, porque ellos tienen miedo de que alguien vaya a llevárselo. Se da el caso también de personas que tienen hijos en la escuela y no lo dejan ir porque no, o mejor dicho, no quieren ir a llevarlo porque pueden ser víctimas de ser apresados. Se dan también los casos de gente que no va a trabajar, no está haciendo nada porque tienen mucho miedo, tienen bastante miedo.
seems to me it may be a violation of the Fourth Amendment to the Constitution.
United will never be defeated.
The people
united, will never be defeated. The people, united.
Praise be to Allah, the cherisher and sustainer of all the worlds. Most gracious, most merciful, Master of the day of judgment. Thee do we worship, and thine aid we seek. Show us the straight way, the way of those on whom thou hast bestowed thy grace, those whose portion is not wrath, and who go not astray.
Demonstrating today because I think it's important that we bring light to this issue here in Maine, that we recognize the fact that we have a vibrant immigrant community and that we need to actually stand in solidarity and make this one community as opposed to dividing between each other. And I'm also out here today to take a firm stance against the involvement of the federal government up in our state. I'm just really not in support of them coming and harassing members of my community.
Maine Veterans for Peace stand in solidarity with our brothers and sisters who have been harassed, chased, intimidated, and arrested by our government and their border bullies. Unwilling to allow our minorities to live in peace, our government is willing enough to send them to fight and die on the killing fields of the world. To date, of the 527 men and women who have been killed in Iraq, 138 of them, over 26%, have been minorities. Our economic policies displace them, our foreign policies send them to war, our environmental policies ruin their lands, and our corporate policies enslave them.
I don't think anyone should live in fear. I think if we extend what's happening one more degree, we go back to repressive countries where people are always in fear. We've even been instructed now by someone in the administration that we, as American citizens, should be carrying our ID cards. Pretty soon we'll be having marks that we have to carry which will identify us. I believe all human beings are equal and deserve to live in safety, and it just frightens me that we are abandoning those principles. This is supposed to be a place where people can come when they're seeking refuge, and I work at a place where people are offered dignity and safety, and this has violated that possibility.
I do not agree with the Patriot Act. I do not agree with what the Border Patrol and the INS are doing, coming into our town and taking our community members away. It isn't okay with me. It frightens me and it angers me, and things have got to change.
We do not have a safe and secure community as long as anybody among us does not feel safe and secure in our community.
I need to stand with this community and tell our government this is not okay, and that's why I'm here. Whatever I have to do, I'm willing to do to make this different.
And thank all of you for coming today. When you think about this country, if what is great about our country is our Constitution and our Bill of Rights, it's those who assert rights, those who demand that they be respected, deserve our respect. On behalf of the City of Portland, the Portland City Council, many of whom are here today, we are here to show solidarity with the immigrant community of Portland and to express our deep sadness and outrage at the events of January 24th. This should not happen again.
Ya basta! Best!
Because I think everybody needs to react in whatever small way they can. People need to say enough is enough. We need to take back our government and make it a truly free country.
Tell me what democracy looks like! Tell me what democracy looks like! Enough already! Tell me what democracy looks like! Tell me what democracy looks like! This is what democracy looks like! Tell me what democracy looks like! This is what democracy looks like! Tell me what democracy looks like!
Con el apoyo de todas las organizaciones comunitarias de aquí del estado, pudimos demostrarle y hacer la coalición que hicimos hace 2 años y le dimos a entender a las autoridades federales de migración de que no era necesario ese tipo de reacción en contra de nuestra comunidad. Sí, estamos viviendo una situación un poco más tranquila, a pesar de las leyes de migración que se están ventilando ahora en el Congreso, que si se aprueban nos van a perjudicar bastante a toda la comunidad de inmigrantes, no solamente latinas, sino de otros países que inmigran aquí. Esperemos que esas leyes no se aprueben, pero por lo contrario, estamos viviendo un clima de mayor tranquilidad y mayor confianza. La gente ya está empezando a salir a las calles de nuevo y estamos interactuando nuestra vida normal como antes. So, saying that, and thanks to all the groups that help us and support us when we do the rally back 2 years ago, we show the federal government and the immigration and border patrol people that Maine is a place where our community, the immigrant community, is a working community and people that is here to stay, and we are committed to serve the state, and the state is backing us up. So saying that, I think we are living a climate that is more peaceful, we are more relaxed, the people are more trustworthy now, and we are living now a normal life, despite those new immigration laws that are coming down the pipe and that they are being developed in Congress. Hopefully those new anti-immigration laws, they don't pass, because if they do, we're gonna be hurting. The immigration community, the immigrant community is gonna be in bad shape, and eventually that's gonna affect the state, because we are a community that support this economy. Without us, a bunch of factories gonna collapse. So hopefully those new laws don't take place, so we can continue being the people that we are here.
This is what democracy looks like! Tell me what democracy looks like! This is what democracy looks like! Tell me what democracy looks like!
A ver, venga un ratito, venga. Oh, no. Come here, sweet little baby. Come on, you're gonna be on TV, okay? Come on, sweetheart, come on. Venga. Venga, sweetie pie. Okay, that's a good boy. Come on, venga. That's a little baby.
Daisy y Steven son una pareja singular que accedió a nuestra visita y a compartir su experiencia familiar con nosotros, We the People. Aquí los tenemos para ustedes.
Bueno, mi nombre es Daisy Foss. Soy de Ecuador. Tengo viviendo aquí en este país 24 años, ¿va a ser?
Sí,
o algo así. Me casé con este señor tan guapo que me trajo a...
Gracias.
Nos casamos en Ecuador y aquí estamos juntos.
En Ecuador, cuando yo estuve ya trabajando por Cuerpo de Paz, hace unos 25, 26 años, y ella trabajaba en ese tiempo en la oficina de teléfonos. Y cuando yo fui allá para hacer llamadas, esa era la manera de conocimos.
Que nos conocimos.
Nos
conocimos.
¿Y por qué te enamoraste de Daisy? Why you fall in love?
Guapa.
Very personal question. Realmente no me recuerdo exactamente cómo comenzó, porque era hace bastante tiempo, pero yo fui a la casa de ella y me gustó y después aquí estamos.
¿Y tú hablabas español ahí?
Bueno, en esa época no habló mucho español, ni ella mucho inglés. Era una cosa muy chistosa. Los dos andamos con sus propios diccionarios, uno de inglés a español, otro de español a inglés. La familia, toda la gente, la mayoría de la gente en Ecuador son muy amables, son gente humilde por la mayoría, pero son muy genuinos y me trataba como familia.
Cuando nosotros llegamos a este país, nosotros ya teníamos la niña, la mayor, nació en Ecuador, la trajimos de 3 meses, y inclusive lo que los padres no hacen por los hijos, hacen por los nietos, como decimos en Ecuador. La señora recibió a su nieta con mucho amor, y a Steve 2 años o 2 años y medio que no la había visto, y llegar aquí a su país con una hija y su esposa, ¿verdad? Entonces, pero la señora es una persona muy justa. Tuve la impresión cuando llegué de que ella lo que le importaba más es la felicidad de sus hijos, ¿verdad? Y lo más importante para mí es el amor que ella demuestra por su hijo, por sus nietos o sus nietas, y para mí es muy importante.
¿Y cuántas hijas tienes?
3. Son 3. La mayor se llama Kathy. Ella ya es graduada de la universidad. Estudió el español. Ahora ella está enseñando en el South Portland High School. Es profesora. La hija intermedia se llama Jessica. Ella es senior en la Universidad de Oregon. Está estudiando negocios. Y la menor está estudiando enfermería. La menor tiene 19 años y está estudiando en Massachusetts enfermería en la Universidad
Simmons College.
Simmons College, ya.
Steven, ¿y cómo fue el educar a las niñas para hablar las dos lenguas?
Es realmente ese desarrollo pasó por sí mismo. Ella todavía hablaba más español que inglés, y en esa época todavía estuvimos en Ecuador, entonces la mayoría de lo que pasó era en español. Y después, cuando llegó a los Estados Unidos, no mucho inglés en la casa porque hablando con ella con español. Las niñas, como todos los criaturas, hablan, entender idiomas muy rápido, ¿no? Entonces no era algo que yo puse mucho pensamiento, pero todas las 3 salió con una buena fundación por el idioma español, tal como inglés. La cosa principal de las 2 culturas que yo noté fue la cultura hispánica. Me parece que lo que más importa es la familia, y las personas de la familia se apoyan los demás de su familia. Digamos, por ejemplo, el trabajo tiene una posición segundo. Si hay algo muy importante por la familia que está pasando, un matrimonio, una muerte, algo así en la escuela por los niños, toda la gente va por esa cosa. Primeramente, es en ese, aparte del trabajo de uno. Entonces, en los Estados Unidos, bastantes veces gente dedica a su trabajo y a veces no están cumpliendo con lo que debe hacer con la familia. Es una diferencia muy grande que yo he visto.
Cuando yo vine a este país, en realidad no es que me costó mucho adaptarme. En parte fue duro porque en realidad el inglés no lo sabía, como para salir yo sola y no entablar una conversación con alguien o un trabajo, ¿verdad? Él tuvo que regresar a la universidad a terminar sus estudios y en la casa me quedaba yo sola con Kathy. Fue una oportunidad para tener esa relación de cuando los niños van creciendo, para que ella se dé cuenta, ¿verdad?, de que su madre estaba allí con ella. Pero en parte también me sentí muy sola porque no tenía amigos, amigas, no conocía a nadie. viniendo de un país donde tú estás rodeada de amigas, amigos, familia, en todo momento, y de repente, de un día para otro se puede decir, porque un día tú estás en un país y otro día no ya está aquí y se encuentra sola, ¿verdad? Esa fue la parte más dura para mí, porque yo no podía comunicarme con nadie más, solamente con ellos. Como siempre se dice, los niños, los hijos repiten lo que escuchan y hacen lo que ven. Entonces en nosotros estaba para darles a ellas un buen ejemplo, primeramente nuestro comportamiento, el respeto que debe haber entre nosotros, para que ellas crezcan también con ese respeto, ¿verdad? Y también como hijas saberles respetar las opiniones que ellas han tenido, y de esa manera el respeto para sus padres, ¿verdad? Yo pienso que esa es una de las razones por cual nuestras niñas siempre, ellas demuestran mucho amor. Ser padres no es fácil, porque cuando ya ellas son adolescentes, también tienen más influencia de los amigos, amigas, y quieren hacer lo que los amigos, amigas hacen, oír, ¿verdad? Todas esas cosas. Pero como dije anteriormente, mientras ellas piensen lo que se le ha inculcado, qué peligro hay en todas partes, pero uno tiene que saber decir no a las cosas que son malas, que son incorrectas, que no deben de hacerlo, ¿verdad? Por esa parte nosotros hemos estado bendecidos, se puede decir no suerte, pero hemos estado bendecidos por Dios de que nos ha dado unas niñas que en realidad han sabido cuidarse, y un alivio para nosotros saber de que nuestras niñas donde están no están haciendo algo indebido o drogas, ¿verdad? Que es una pena siempre escuchar que los chicos con drogas hay accidentes porque manejan borrachos, y también es triste saber que muchas veces los padres no le pueden prestar mucha atención, como Steven dice. Hay muchos hogares que es mucho más importante el trabajo, que necesitan el dinero, por supuesto. Todos necesitamos el dinero, trabajamos porque necesitamos el dinero, pero en cambio dan más prioridad a las cosas materiales que a las cosas espirituales del hogar.
A propósito, Daisy y Steven trabajan juntos aquí en la casa, tienen su propio taller. ¿Qué cosa es a qué te dedicas ahora, Steven?
Bueno, ahorita hagamos varias cosas. Yo hago arreglación de zapatos y cosas de cuero, de canvas por los botes y cosas así. Y también hace reparaciones de computadoras y páginas de red. Hago eso también.
¿Y enseñas en la escuela de adultos?
También hace unas clases de computación en Adult Education en Portland. Ojalá que no esté quemando la yuca.
Anda a ver la yuca que se puede quemar. Corre con un cuchillo. No, bueno, lo que yo hago, soy costurera, como es la palabra apropiada que le damos en mi país. Aquí es seamstress. Hago alteraciones, hago ropa, hago vestidos de novia cuando hay la oportunidad, se presenta la oportunidad.
Stephen ha ido a ver que no se vaya a quemar la comida.
Y también doy clases privadas aquí en la casa, clases privadas de español, como también enseño en la escuela de adultos, enseño el español. Y nos ayudamos mutuamente, sí.
Ya mismo va a ser puré de yuca.
Uy, chila. Lo apagaste.
No.
Tienes que pagar.
No me dice.
Apágamelo si va a ser puré de yuca, pues. Porque ella va a editar esta, así que después lo vemos.
¿Cómo es Ecuador?
Ecuador es un país muy pequeño pero muy bonito. La situación económica es muy dura, ¿verdad? Como en todo país hay problemas políticos y eso es lo que lleva pues a la pobreza del país, la corrupción y todas esas cosas. Pero en cuanto a la familia, cuando visito mi país ya me siento muy feliz porque, como él mencionó, siempre hay esa unión, ¿verdad? Y eso no se puede cambiar por nada.
Yes, you are a cute little baby.
Yeah, pata para acá, pues, mijita. La pata para acá.
Es que ese sofá es muy incómodo.
Los invitamos a comunicarse y a compartir sus experiencias con nosotros, como Daisy y Steven. Escríbanos a las direcciones que aparecen en la pantalla y con mucho gusto los visitaremos. La Oficina Postal de los Estados Unidos en Portland presentó al público 4 nuevas estampillas con motivos latinoamericanos. Esta vez son coloridas estampillas con estilizadas representaciones del mambo, el cha-cha-cha, el merengue, la salsa, que darán personalidad a su correspondencia. Estas obras de arte han sido diseñadas por artistas latinoamericanos. Nosotros, We the People, estuvo presente como siempre en acontecimientos como este en que se celebran a nuestra identidad.
We welcome you to come on board, and we're going to sort of judge and see just how good you are, and if you're really good, we have a prize for you, okay? But before we get started, I want to introduce a few people, and I made some notes here so I don't make any mistakes. But our dance instructor, who was kind enough to come and spend some time with us, is Johanna. And she's going to do all 4 dance styles for us. And she's going to also tell us the history, along with Victoria Chicon, who is from WMPG FM radio station. And I'd like to, of course,
one of the things we want to try to accomplish tonight is expanding our diversity, our events committee. The challenge I've given Debbie is to make this more fun, provide stuff that the employees would appreciate. You know, we do a lot of good things, give you a lot of information, but spice it up a little bit of entertainment that I understand is going to be excellent. A little bit of press coverage, free food. We have non-alcoholic margaritas. So it's something that we want you to enjoy and embrace the diversity. The Postal Service has a tremendous amount of diversity, and what makes us stronger, it's what brings us together in times of trouble and necessity, natural disaster. It's what makes us who we are, and I just want us all to appreciate that.
to get your margaritas here. Margaritas here. That looks good.
Esto no es un concurso de baile. No, no, no. ¿Qué estamos celebrando, María?
Estamos celebrando mi cumpleaños y también celebrando mi graduación de profesora de yoga con todas mis amistades y mis hijas. Bueno, las clases que estoy dando son los domingos para la comunidad latina y para los que hablan español también. Las clases de yoga son los domingos en Parkside Neighborhood a las 11 de la mañana, de 10 a 11, y son gratis. Y las clases para la comunidad general es en la YMCA, y es los miércoles a las 5:30 de la tarde.
María Rosita Sánchez, muy conocida en nuestra comunidad, tenía su restaurante Inca Roots aquí en Congress Street, donde no solo se comía rico, sino que podía reunirse con amigos a charlar en español. Para María fue muy doloroso tener que dejar este negocio que era parte de su sueño aquí en los Estados Unidos. Nosotros, We the People, estamos muy contentos de que esté de nuevo activa entre nosotros.
Utilicé yoga en mi vida personal, ¿no? Y entonces me ayudó mucho a mí a sentir paz dentro de mí misma, y decidí, con el apoyo de mis profesoras, aplicar para también yo ser instructora de yoga, y me tomó un año para poder entrar en el programa, y de una vez que entré ya pude yo lograr sacar el título, ¿no? Y ahora yo poder compartir ese conocimiento, esa práctica aquí en mi comunidad, y especialmente a la comunidad que está más necesitada, ¿no?
Virginia María Rincón cumplió uno de sus más grandes sueños. Desde hace muchos años nuestra comunidad cuenta con un ángel que pueden llamar a cualquier hora, en cualquier circunstancia y obtener ayuda. A continuación, compartimos la ceremonia de ordenación con ustedes.
Bueno, en el 97 ya terminé mis estudios en el seminario y me ofrecieron una iglesia en Boston, en un lugarcito que le dicen la Vía Victoria, muchos puertorriqueños por allí, muy linda la capilla. Y allí estuve muchos años, del 97 hasta el 2001. Tratando de empezar programas nuevos, ayudándole a las mujeres con su vida espiritual. En 2001 ya no había dinero para la posición mía y dejé el trabajo y vine a visitar aquí en Portland. Era un fin de semana que llegué y había un sacerdote aquí en la iglesia episcopal que me dice: Virginia María, este domingo vamos a abrir una iglesia nueva aquí en el lugarcito cerca del Portland Market. ¿Y quieres venir al servicio? Y le digo, pues seguro que sí, no voy a hacer nada. Dice, sería bueno que leyeras la lectura. Le digo, está bien, yo leo la lectura. Dice, ¿lo quieres leer en español? ¿Y por qué no? O sea que así se hizo. Y entrando a la iglesia ese domingo, ya había encontrado unos latinos en la calle y los invité. Y se hizo el primer servicio bilingüe allí en la iglesia que se nombraba Santa Elizabeth. Mi abuelita me llevaba cada semana a las clases del catequismo, ¿verdad? Un día no me estaba portando bien, siempre rebelde. Y una de las monjitas me dice, vas a tener que orar el rosario. Y pues ahí me puse a orar la oración del rosario. Pero cuando se fue la monjita, yo brinqué la barrera y con mucha confianza me vestí con la ropa del sacerdote y salí afuera al altar y dice, paz del Señor esté contigo. Pues entró la monjita y no tenía mucha paz la monjita en ese momento. Y yo creo que quizás ahí era una de las primeras señas que Dios me estaba llamando y lo rebelde empezó de allí, lo diferente.
Empieza la ronda de los candidatos a la gobernación del estado de Maine. Nosotros, We the People, tuvimos la simpática visita de Patricia Lamarche, candidata por el partido Green Independent. Con ustedes, Manuel Orantes, conduciendo esta entrevista.
Patricia, thank you very much for being with us today. And you're planning to go forward in politics at this time.
Well, I'm running for governor of Maine, and the election's in November. So a lot of us are running. There are 12 or 13 candidates right now. And nothing matters prior to the end of the spring. For party candidates like myself, we have until March 15th to collect the signatures necessary to put us on the ballot. That's the ballot access law for the state of Maine. Every state has its own laws. And for those who have no party, those who will run unenrolled or called independent, they have until the end of May to get the signatures necessary to put them on the ballot. My name was so beautiful when spoken in Spanish that I really enjoyed it much more than being Pat LaMarche. But I'm running for governor of the great state of Maine. I'm very excited. I'm excited that I think Maine has an opportunity for the first female governor, and then an opportunity also to have a governor who has a great deal of respect and desire to help folks live in their culture, to pursue their culture, and then to share their culture with us, which I think is most important. I actually grew up in Providence, Rhode Island, and I grew up in a housing project where folks lived who were poor and had limited means, and they would receive a housing stipend. And there were many children in my family, and my dad was a college student, and he ended up becoming a doctor. And it was because of that low-income housing and the assistance my dad received to get an education that we moved out of that housing project. But when I lived in Providence, we had Portuguese, and we had African American, and we had Spanish, and we had wonderful cultural exchanges and fantastic food. Oh my gosh, I was in high school and we moved to Bangor, Maine, and I said, where are the Portuguese bakeries? What are we going to do without sweetbread? And so I had a wonderful upbringing in a world that was very multicultural. I'm a journalist by trade, journalist and broadcaster. I have two fantastic, wonderful children, Becky and John. My daughter, my daughter majors in languages, and she's fluent in French. She speaks Dutch and Arabic. She's a student in New York right now at Bard College in New York. And my son is a comparative literature major, so they both love language. And we lived in Europe. When I was in my late 30s, I went to graduate school in Europe. I went to the University of Amsterdam. They went to a European school. And one of the things, the advantages, I think, of being in that school was that if you're in Europe, you're required to know at least 2 dominant languages. So you had the choice of English, French, Spanish, and German. And if you didn't learn your second language proficiently enough by the age of 14, you would stay back until you could take 2 of your classes in your second language. So at 14 in Europe, you have to be able to take your use your second language to take history and geography. And you take the classes in the second language. So my children were given a great ability to speak other languages that I had not been given as a young person. We learned English, and we spoke English, and some of us spoke it well, and other people didn't speak it as well, and that was all we had. And since living in Europe and having the opportunity to travel, I've made it my personal goal to become multilingual. I'm failing miserably at that goal right now because I have so many other things on my plate, but I don't intend to give up.
And it's good.
I have an opportunity to go back to Guatemala in April.
This year?
Yes. And it's just the campaign that's really kind of up in the air right now, whether or not I'd have the time, because it takes 10 days, you know.
Yes.
But I went to Guatemala and I loved Guatemala. I loved the people. I never saw poverty like I saw in Guatemala, and I also saw such love. It was a very interesting place. My experience was that I had been given an opportunity at the last minute to go on a trip with a group of students from the United States to Guatemala and to write for the Brunswick Times-Record newspaper in Brunswick, Maine. And so I love an adventure, and I had wanted to speak Spanish. I ran for vice president in 2004. I probably should mention that. I ran for vice president in 2004, and when I did that, I had the opportunity to live in Sonoma Valley for a while with some migrant farmers. And my favorite term they used was Feliz Vice Presidente, which was very flattering and fun. But I was so angry with myself because I couldn't speak their language. And here these people were working for $5 a day, all day long. And the people who sought to stand up in the country and stand for office, people like me, couldn't even speak to them about their lives. And we had wonderful interpreters, and MAPA was very helpful to us. But I was staggered by my own ignorance of their language. So I started taking a few little classes, and so when this opportunity to go to Guatemala came up, I was thrilled. Well, I still couldn't speak Spanish when I got there, but the two terms that upset me the most were mucho gusto and gusto mucho, because one is I like it a lot, and the other one is I'm really happy to know you. And I would tell people I like them a lot, and when I meant to say that I was happy to know them, and well, you know, it was confusing. But I got to go down to Guatemala, and I got to write stories about these young people's lives that lived in the dumps. And as you know, Guatemala City is filled with these dumps, and the children and the parents, they pick through the trash at the dumps, and they make a living that way. And the whole thing is a result of poverty, a result of much larger nations, our nation, exerting force inside that country, throwing the country out of balance. When I wrote the stories, I didn't write about the politics. I didn't write about anything except what I saw. I tried to be a lens and not a filter. I tried not to change anything or to color it in any way, because I wanted the people who read what I wrote to form their own opinion, and hopefully to see what I saw and then wonder why it was that way. Guatemala is beautiful. It's volcanic. It's mountainous, and it's built out of these volcanoes. And we stayed in Antigua, and took a bus in every day to Guatemala City, because Guatemala City was so dangerous. And people would be driving down the road with a shotgun across their lap and the muzzle of it out the window, because so many people were carjacked, and it was just such a dangerous place. And yet, on a small scale, everyone was so loving and kind. You know, it was just a strange sort of combination of forces. Intense poverty, which probably caused a lot of the crime. But when we were in Guatemala City, it was this mountainous area, and what happened was two mountains, the trash would be thrown between them, almost as if you were in the White Mountains of the United States in New Hampshire, and there was Mount Jefferson and Mount Washington, and people just decided to fill the gap between them up with trash. You know, when you think of that, you think, my God, we would never do that in this country. But that's what they were doing in Guatemala City for purposes of money. And when you see someone who works all day long and can't afford a cheeseburger, you understand poverty. It was intense poverty. And it would take a week's pay to go to McDonald's. And yet there was a McDonald's everywhere. You know, and people would do anything they could to be able to go there. But I ate the most incredible food, incredibly delicious food for 18 cents. And to say, why are you going to McDonald's? You know, 18 cents you can eat a huge, delicious meal. But it was incredible how the people who had to cope with their poverty had gotten to that point. And what happened was there were death squads that went through the villages, and they murdered and kidnapped men. Some were brothers, some were fathers, some were sons. And what happened was the wives and mothers and sisters and daughters came to Guatemala City to find their men. Well, their men were no more. Their men had been exterminated by these death squads. And so the women were trapped in Guatemala City. And the only way they had to make a living was to pick through these dumps. And I never saw a child that did not have a dog bite. And the children would forage with hungry dogs to eat. And these death squads had been supported by the United States. And it was remarkable, beyond description. I wanted words every day that I didn't have to describe what I saw in Guatemala City. And I was fortunate that I never described how it made me feel, because I never would have found those words. I still don't have those words. But it was quite remarkable. And when you then see, and when I would remember that there were Guatemalans or Mexicans or Ecuadorians in those great vineyards that I was in Sonoma Valley, picking those grapes, when I remembered those people, then they were men, and they had fled. And then later, fast forward a year and a half, and I see the victims of these death squads. I understand why they fled. I understand why they hide and they live in tarps and they work for $5 a day in the United States. And they're willing to risk the immigration and everything because of what they fled. And I think that the language is a problem. When we don't know the language of the people, we cannot hear their stories. You have to go all the way to Guatemala to see the story when you speak only English. And you need to see the whole puzzle put back together to see what has brought people to such a desperate situation in the United States. And at the time that I was in California, it was interesting because Schwarzenegger had just become governor. And he was taking away the driver's licenses, and he was taking away the opportunities. And here Arnold Schwarzenegger had been an immigrant. A first generation, he had immigrated, not his parents or his grandparents or his great-grandparents, and he arrogantly forgot how he got here. He had come here seeking a better life.
How can be possible that a woman in Maine can go to be a governor in this time when there is a lot of, I would say, differences in between the male position and the female position in the political spectrum?
Well, how a woman becomes governor in Maine has got to be seen this year, I think. But it was Nelson Mandela last year who said that if women ruled the world would be more peaceful. Mm-hmm. And I think Nelson Mandela's probably got a very good point there. There's just some statistics on women, and the number one way for a woman to get out of poverty is to start her own business. And Maine, as you know, with the exception of the affluent, very wealthy parts of the Cumberland County, many people are very wealthy in Cumberland and York County. Many people are also very poor in Cumberland and York County. But there is great wealth in those two counties. With the exception of this area, almost all of Maine is poor. Mm-hmm. In fact, if you took that area out of Maine, Maine would be the poorest state in the Union. So I think if the number one way for a woman to get out of poverty is to open her own small business, then probably the number one way for Maine to get out of poverty would be to have a woman run it. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a big endorsement of having a woman governor. Plus, I think women and men we have wonderful differences, and I love them. I don't want men and women to get any more alike than they are, because I think the differences are perfect. Yeah. But I think that we are enough alike in the things we care about. We care about our families. We care about our having a good job. We care about being able to provide for our family. We care about being able to provide for ourselves. Mm-hmm. We like to educate ourselves and each other. We like to think. And all those things that make men and women the same mm-hmm. make a woman just as good a governor as a man would be. The things that make us different, the fact that it might be a little easier for me to talk about love than a man who has to seem more strong, that might be what Nelson Mandela is talking about.
Thank you very much, and we appreciate that you are watching us today, and this is We the People. We were with Patricia Lamarche. Gracias, amigos, por estar con nosotros. Este fue Nosotros, la gente, y estuvimos con Patricia Lamarche. Muchas gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bueno, amigos, hemos llegado así al final de nuestro programa Nosotros, We the People. Se despide esta su servidora Tatiana Yepes y los esperamos en una próxima edición. Que tengan un buen día.